Imagine what it's like going from an A&R consultant for musicians to helping some of the biggest brands in the world like Walmart and Essence launch on Roblox. Now, that's Tom's journey. He joins us today to discuss GEEIQ's groundbreaking partnership with Zepeto, the future of brand activations, and the unique opportunity the platform offers, especially for fashion brands and beauty brands. We'll also dive into how this data partnership empowers brands in the Metaverse. Let's find out how Tom's music background led him to this exciting intersection of music, fashion, and the Metaverse. Listen up.
So I actually have an interesting sort of background journey of how I got into this space. I initially come from a sort of music background. I was working as an A&R consultant, and that was, to say the least, it was a challenging industry and a challenging role. And at the time, I was sort of really looking for different ways to understand how artists can meet new audiences, but also can have ownership over their royalties and over their art. And that very much led me down that like blockchain rabbit hole, because there was a lot of talk around NFTs at the time. There were talk about artist royalties moving on chain so that artists had more ownership over, what royalties they were owed. And I was sort of exploring how independent artists could better monetize their work. And in doing that, there was actually a role advertised by GEEIQ to come and join the client service team because they just got the Elton John project. So Elton John was about to enter Roblox. So I think my initial music background at the time and the project on the table was like perfect timing. It was very lucky. And I've been here for 2.5 years now. I'm loving it. Sort of moved a little bit away from the music stuff and more focused in like brands, but also still working with musicians. So yeah, it's been great and a fun journey and right place, right time, I think.
It's incredibly difficult to find any reliable data on Zepeto, which makes it super difficult for brands to decide whether they should invest into the platform to see if it's worthwhile. However, with GEEIQ partnering up with Zepeto, it makes it much easier for brands to evaluate whether they should enter the platform. So I had to ask Tom, why is this partnership important for brands? How is GEEIQ helping brands track the ROI on Zepeto? And why has Walmart, after starting on Roblox, expanded to Zepeto? And is this a trend we'll see more in 2025?
Yeah, so I think it's very important that brands, firstly, are empowered by data to make decisions when they enter these platforms. And I think the value that Zepeto sees in a GEEIQ partnership is understanding that we work with a wide variety of different brands from different industries. And their data is actually really, really encouraging. And so they want brands to have visibility over that data to understand their performance if they enter the Zepeto platform. And so I think it's a really mutually beneficial partnership in that we can empower our brands who go into Zepeto with data, and Zepeto can welcome brands into their ecosystem. Well, I think the thing that GEEIQ enables brands to have is just visibility over their data. You know, when brands enter these spaces, it's actually quite rare that they're really measuring what they're doing and they're measuring performance. And I think to take it back a step, what we're seeing at GEEIQ is very much a shift from the pandemic times, gaming being very popular, brands hopping on the bandwagon to get PR, to get the headlines. And we have now shifted into what we see as more like performance marketing. And we see it in brands where the budget for these activations is shifting from innovation budgets more towards marketing budgets. And as soon as that happens, there needs to be real measurement and attribution. So brands need to know when they go onto a platform and they spend a large amount of budget, what is their ROI, as you say? What are the numbers? And with this partnership with Zepeto, brands who enter Zepeto have their own custom dashboard on GEEIQ where they can measure things like likes, favorites, views, number of content created, item sales, item try-ons, and it just gives them a much better understanding of how their brand is being perceived by that community. Yeah, that's a great question. I think firstly, shout out to Justin and the team at Walmart, because his approach to this space is amazing. They really want to innovate. They want to be a first of their kind brand when they enter these spaces and bring like a true ownability to every activation. And we started with Roblox and we saw some great success working with the Walmart team there. And what we did in Roblox was we introduced some of Walmart's private label brands. So at Walmart, they sort of have certain brands, one of which is No Boundaries, which is their own private label fashion brand. And we were sort of testing with introducing some of these items as digital twins within Roblox. And then it was also like animation packs and emotes. And we saw like a great reception, but actually we felt that to introduce a new private label brand, a platform like Zepeto, where avatar identity is at the heart of the platform, was actually a great testing environment. So it's more of a continuation of our efforts on Roblox. But I think the real difference between Zepeto and Roblox is, whilst Roblox is very, very social, it is still at its heart a gaming platform, and users are there to play games and to socialize. We very much see Zepeto as, whilst it has gamification, is actually much more of a avatar identity platform. So users there care so much about their avatar identity. It's much more closer to a traditional social media with virtual avatars than it is a gaming platform. And I think to introduce a new clothing brand, it was really important that that avatar customization was at the absolute heart of the platform. Yeah, I think absolutely. I think, brands entering these UGC ecosystems only brings more eyeballs to these platforms. And I think, whilst these platforms don't need brands, and that's something very important to remember, is they don't need brands, especially the gaming platforms. Brands are playing in their space, and should always remember that. But brands do bring the opportunity to bring large investment, so they can sort of put money into the ecosystem, which then trickles down to creators who then make earnings off branded presence. And I think it's just healthy for the overall ecosystem when brand spend is coming into these platforms. So I certainly see 2025 being a big year for Zepeto, especially actually in growing Western awareness for their platform. I think that's why they're excited by working with a partner like Walmart, is understanding the presence and the notoriety that Walmart has in the US, and the awareness that a partnership like Walmart and Zepeto can bring to the Zepeto platform.
Because Zepeto is a virtualized self-expression based platform, do Zepeto users spend more on UGC compared to Roblox users? And what's the opportunity for brands using Zepeto?
Yeah, we certainly see it as a platform that has potentially greater ROI opportunities for digital goods than perhaps Roblox. It very much depends. There are cases where brands, I think, last or even this year, actually, the sort of Adidas pendant with Who's Trade and Dub It, that generated, I think it was 25K USD in revenue. It was a limited item. So there is opportunity on the Roblox platform to drive meaningful revenue. I think when it comes to Zepeto, there's also real opportunity for revenue. And I think it's actually more focused on the clothing items that you bring into the platform. I think with Roblox, there needs to be some level of having a presence either through an integration or through a persistent world where you can then promote your item collection, or you can sell game passes or game boosts and monetize off those microtransactions within your experience. With Zepeto, there's less need for a brand to go and spend, $500,000, $1 million on building an owned destination. And they can come in at an entry level with an item collection and see meaningful revenue off the back of that.
That's super interesting. And I've been doing a lot of research on China's metaverse and Asia's metaverse as well, right? And I often see the China have a higher spending power compared to the West. So do you think that also affects how people also buy stuff from Zepeto? Um,
Yeah, I think it's something that's consistent with what we see around the APAC region, in that I think even more so than us in the West, they are super focused on identity, and and that extends to digital identity. So avatar customization is huge in China and in APAC. What's actually really interesting, though, about Zepeto as a platform is that the US, as a single country, is one of their biggest audiences. APAC is their biggest region, but as a single country, the US is one of their biggest audiences. And the US audience is very likely to make purchases on Zepeto. So I think they make on average around 8 item purchases a week, the US audience. So yeah, it's something that we see very much in APAC, but also the audience in the West on Zepeto is just as engaged and just as likely to make purchases. You know, with all these UGC platforms, they offer a canvas for brands to tell their story and to bring their identity to a platform. What Zepeto does really, really well is there's a sort of level of fidelity that allows brands to bring their real visual identity to this platform. And I think that's why we see so many luxury fashion brands enter Zepeto, because they're able to bring their items in a really high fidelity avatar environment. I think on Roblox, there's often talks around, you know, the graphics aren't quite good, or, you know, the fidelity is not high enough. It's very blocky, which is certainly true in some instances. However, Roblox is definitely moving towards a higher fidelity platform. But I think the lore of Roblox is a bit like Minecraft in that it sort of embraces those more 8-bit traditional graphics, whereas the Zepeto offers really high fidelity avatar customization and super detailed 3D layering. So I think the engine on Zepeto allows for a slightly greater fidelity when it comes to a brand bringing their visual cues to an audience. I think the things to think about are actually the same as looking at gaming more broadly, and understanding what can I as a brand bring to this platform that is going to enrich the user's experience. For fashion brands, that might be, I can bring a collection of luxury fashion items into the digital realm, and that will be really exciting for certain users who are fans of my brand in the real world, now wear my brand in a virtual world. You know, that might not apply for all brands. I think if I think of what Walmart has done on Roblox, they've brought something totally ownable to them as a brand, which is a utility that allows users to discover different clothing items. So they're really extending what they do well in the real world into a virtual world. If I think of a brand like Essence Cosmetics, who've recently launched on the Roblox platform, they're bringing their makeup looks to the platform as free UGC. So it's those ownable offerings that make sense for the brand. So it's authentic. Identifying ways in which you can show up in a meaningful yet authentic way is really, really important. And the different platforms will have different ways in which you can do that.
Going back to Tom's music days, I wanted to know, how important is the metaverse for artists these days, especially from a marketing perspective?
Firstly, it's huge value. I think just from an awareness point of view, introducing artists to new audiences. You know, Gen Z very much does not spend the same amount of time as perhaps you or I did on traditional social media. They are spending their time in Roblox, in Fortnite, in Minecraft. I think on average, Gen Z spends around 2.5 hours on Roblox a day, which is a lot more than YouTube, a lot more than TikTok, a lot more than Instagram. So I think whilst those traditional channels are still really important for artists to engage audiences, understanding that they need to show up on these new channels to meet new audiences is really important. And I think what these gaming platforms actually allow is a far more immersive connection with their fans or the new audiences that they're meeting than just seeing a sort of snippet of a music video on Instagram and scrolling past it, for example. They're actually able to really bring their story. They have a canvas that's 3D, that can be gamified, that can engage audiences, reward their fandom. So I think it's sort of twofold. It's one, artists get to reach a huge new audience that they wouldn't be reaching on traditional socials. But also when they do that, they can capture that audience in a much more meaningful way because it's immersive, because it can be gamified, because you can interact in a way that you just can't do on social media.
Essence, one of Europe's biggest beauty brands, launched an activation with Tom, and it was a massive success. So I had to ask Tom, what are the possibilities for beauty brands in the space? And could we see beauty brands sell real life products through Roblox in the future?
Yeah. So firstly, shout out to Sarah and the team at Cosnova and Tan and his team at Young Bon Matt, who I think came onto the podcast with you on a previous episode, who have done a great job in bringing that experience to life. We worked very closely with Sarah and the team on this Roblox strategy. And I think the real key thing there was arriving in a way, because actually it's Essence's second experience on the platform. I don't think the first one went quite as well. And I think the key to this success this time round was showing up in a really native way. So they built a tycoon mechanic, which we know is really, really popular on Roblox. It's native to the platform. Users really enjoy tycoons. They can drive lots of repeat visits and really deep, long session times. So I think in order to meet those objectives and to achieve the numbers that we did, it was very closely linked to not only the mechanic, which drives repeat visits and is great for retention, but also the free UGC offering that really leans into the brand and the brand's identity, the makeup look, the princess hair. These are all items that are ownable to the brand, but also super desirable to users. And I think that combination is why the numbers are so good. Yeah, I'm sure they would. I'm sure they would. I think actually, as well as physical products, Roblox offers the ability for cosmetics brands to actually sell digital makeup looks, which is really exciting. So I certainly think there'll be a stage where brands are selling beauty products inside their Roblox experiences, but also there's still that opportunity to sell avatar looks. I think it was last year or perhaps a little bit before, Roblox released dynamic faces. So that means that avatar faces can move in accordance with their users' movements. And I think that just brings a new level of interactivity to face looks on avatars on Roblox, which again is just like another way for beauty brands to come in to offer distinct looks that can increase customization, increase personalization on the platform. So yeah, really exciting space for beauty brands. Yeah, I think it's a huge opportunity, and perhaps it's an opportunity that, because of certain stigmas around gaming and gaming platforms, that beauty brands have felt historically that it isn't their space to play in. You know, we often hear that gamers are perceived as, you know, sweaty 14-year-olds in their mum's basement. And therefore, why would a beauty brand want to engage that audience? But I think the reality is that that is so far from the truth. And platforms like Roblox have just as many female players as they do male players. And beauty brands are trying to reach young female audiences. There is no better place than a platform like Roblox, where these young females are spending time, they're socializing, and that is their consumer of the future. So I think understanding that for beauty brands, it's no different. Your audience is on Roblox, your audience is on Fortnite, your audience is on Minecraft, on Zepeto. So you need to reach them, and you need to have a gaming strategy if you want to engage that audience.
How excited are you about the Shopify integration into going, the Shopify integration? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm somewhat biased in that working with Walmart, I know that their team built an amazing solution. And I think, but actually that is very different to the Shopify integration. I think Walmart allows developers, brands to sell products that would be sold in Walmart. I think what Shopify offers is developers to then monetize, the community developers to monetize off their IP. So, you could create a physical Adopt Me store that is then selling physical Adopt Me goods. Or for artists experience, the ability to host their merch sales within their Roblox experience is really exciting. But they're sort of two different things in that, the Shopify integration is very much focused on the developer community and artists rather than brands as much. Whereas I think integrations like the Walmart one very much focuses on those D2C brands.
I had to ask Tom one more question. What is he excited about in 2025?
For brands, I think what we saw in 2024, certainly in the second half of 2024, we've seen a lot of integrations. So, not brands creating their own spaces, but actually integrating into existing games on Roblox. I anticipate that trend to continue because I think, it requires a bit lower investment in that you don't need to build a whole world. But also you're reaching a pre-existing audience that you can know so much about. So you can have all the data in the world about the audience that you're reaching, understand what they like, understand if it's the right fit for your brand. I think with an own world, that has the challenge of you actually need to drive traffic there. It has the pro that you then walk away with a community that you've built, but there's that upfront challenge of a high investment to build the world, but also then user acquisition becomes super important. So very long-winded answer. I anticipate integrations to continue to be the meta. I'm also very excited about the Fortnite opportunity, about UEFN. They are certainly looking to brands and the sort of Fortnite creative ecosystem. They are making that more exciting in the tools that they're bringing out and the products that they're introducing to that platform, specifically around measurement and analytics, so that brands can show up and understand their performance a bit better. And then hopefully there'll be, soon item economies within Fortnite Creative, and then there'll be a world where brands can sell skins in the same way they do on Roblox. I think that would be awesome. But yeah, really excited 2025 and very grateful to be here. So thank you, Stephen.
Look, me and Tom filmed about 4 or 5 months ago, and that episode was great. But I didn't upload it because I knew there was better stuff coming. And guess what? There was better stuff coming. There was even greater stuff. This episode was incredible, jam-packed with value, especially if your brand looking to go into Zepeto in 2025. And yes, I hope you enjoyed the episode because I certainly did. And I want to say a big thank you to Tom for coming onto the podcast. And yes, see you next time.